Hello there YouTube, my name is Chuggy and today I am playing some Counter-Strike Global Offensive, playing some arms race on baggage and hostage mission on office. And today guys it is question time 32. So first of all what I'll say is I'm pretty sure this is the first time where I've had a sort of thing of question time where it hasn't featured any Battlefield gameplay. Yeah, kind of odd that. It's pretty amazing that I've got, through nearly, 32 episodes, so 64 weeks, over a year. Shame that's had to end, but unfortunately, haven't had much time to play Battlefield, which is a pity, but I've been playing plenty of Counter-Strike. You guys seem to really enjoy the Counter-Strike sort of Let's Play thing, which I did a few weeks ago, so I thought I'd bring you a little more. So basically, the first gameplay you're going to see is this game called Arms Race on Baggage. You can basically think of it as gun game. First through all 26 weapons, the final being a golden knife, wins. And the second game, Hostage Mission on Office. If you're at all aware of Counter-Strike, you'll kind of realise what that all is about. But if you're not aware of it, basically hostage mission, terrorists v counter-terrorists. Counter-terrorists need to rescue the hostages, we have to stop them, and I was playing as a terrorist. Anyway, I will digress. Having said that, it is question time. If you've not seen question time before, it is where I answer your great questions. And, well, as always, I've got a truckload of awesome questions to answer this week. If you have anything you'd like me to answer on gaming, life, or anything else, all you need to do is pop it down in the comment section below, and I'll get to answering it next question time. Without further ado, and introductions aside, it seems to have really gone on for a little bit today. Let me kick off this week with a question from Trey Kariba, and they ask, what is my favourite map in Battlefield 3 out of all of the maps in the game, and have I ever gotten into a fight? Well, I'll say out of all the maps in Battlefield 3, including the DLC and everything, I've got two real sort of standout kind of favourites, as that poor bot falls into my line of fire. I've got two real favourites, which is, well, it is close between, I think it's Nabadan Flats, Nabadan Plains, one of the maps they added in Endgame, which is, you know, the desert one out in the open. You've got, you know, a lot of open space. You can really see the enemy move around. You can kind of react to it. I really like that. And then you've got Tel El Market from Aftermath. There's just something about that map I really dig. It just aesthetically and the way that the map plays out. I really do enjoy playing on those two maps in particular. If I had to pick one, I'd probably have to say Tel El Market. So yeah, Tel El Market, I'll say that. Have I ever gotten into a fight? Well, I have. Although, to be honest, I don't tend to, you know, get into these kind of situations. It was when I was younger, and it was, you know, let me put it like this, it was sort of one of those things where it's sort of the exception rather than the rule. I don't tend to get in many fights. I forget what exactly it was about, but all I remember is I was, you know, defending myself, a bully trying to push me around or some such rubbish. Anyway, doesn't matter. In the past now, yes, I have been in a fight, and I don't tend to get in many of those anyway. At least not in real life. I will digress. Trey, thank you very much for your questions there. Next question comes from mdays14, and they ask, have I ever played Race 07, and if so, how does it compare to R-Factor? Well, I haven't actually played Race 07, it's the official, I'm going to get this wrong now, but I'm pretty sure it's the official sort of simulator game for the World Touring Car Series, and no, I haven't played it, unfortunately, as things have happened. I've only just sort of got into like sim-ish racing courtesy of R-Factor, and it is really interesting actually comparing R-Factor to other games and other things. Really because, for instance, I've been playing a lot of Grid. Hopefully you guys caught the live stream on Sunday. You know, it's really funny going back to a non-sim based racer, because the real difference is really the grip, and not in perhaps the amount of it. You'll still have lots of grip in the sim racing. It's more how the car reacts. In terms of some corners you will have lots of grip, and some corners you won't. It's much more dynamic in the Sims, whereas in, say, Grid or Gran Turismo, whatever else, it's much more predictable, much more linear, and because of that you can kind of predict and really push the car in kind of silly ways, whereas in reality you wouldn't be able to do that. So I haven't raced in Race 07, but R-Factor compared to other things that I've played, it's interesting. It's all about the grip, and managing obviously how to get the most grip out of the car at any one time. So MD, sorry I can't really answer that question there, but thank you for that question nonetheless. Next question comes from Jen Flens, and I hope I've said that right for you there. They ask, what in my opinion is the fastest way to level up, and I'll presume that this means in Battlefield 3. Fundamentally it's playing your role. I cannot tell you the number of times I've had 1,000-point plus streaks, you know, in one go, courtesy of me playing playing my role, so, you know, dropping down health, dropping down ammo, whatever else. So basically, if you want to rank up quickly, I think the fastest way you can really do that is to basically go back, have a look at what your team are doing, and if your teammates need ammunition or if they need support, you know, go and get out there and do that for them. You know, you don't necessarily have to be, I guess, all fight all the time. You know, you can take things, I wouldn't say easy, but you can, you know, sit back for every now and then and, you know, dish out the ammunition. You will still be well rewarded, and if you can do the two at the same time, you're definitely quids in for doing well. So yeah, definitely play your role. Don't always think that you need to be some sort of a killing machine to do well. You really don't have to. You can play your role, play the objective, and you'll do fine. So hopefully that helps you there, Jens. Thank you very much for the great question. Next question comes from Loch, and I've probably said that wrong, so my apologies. I'm not doing well with the pronunciation here as we move on to the hostage mission here on Office. Their question is, will I be buying Battlefield 4 and Watch Dogs on the PS4 ahead of the PS3? Obviously, despite the fact 2 different consoles and, you know, 2 different specifications of hardware, all this kind of stuff. Or will I wait? And you know, wait for it from PS4 and not buy it on PS3, or will I get both? Well, I mean, fundamentally, I'm definitely going to have to, you know, contemplate financially. I think is more going to be the deciding factor rather than, you know, the like of having both. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, right? I mean, for instance, I've gone for Grid 2 on PC rather than console purely because, you know, it will look nicer, it will play nicer, etc. on PC than, say, console, just by the fact that the PC has a lot more hardware and everything else to play with. I mean, likewise, if you would ask, say, someone to make a console game run on an equivalent PC in terms of hardware and everything else, like, say, Grid 2, you wouldn't be able to do it because the consoles are just like that. The optimization stuff doesn't exist. But what I think I will do, though, is I would wait for the PlayStation 4 version of the game rather than the PlayStation 3. Waiting, you know, the time delay and everything, that will, of course, be a bit of an issue, but by the sounds of it, next-gen consoles will be out in the very, very near future. For example, Battlefield 4 has been announced on both the Xbox One and the PS4, which is great, and they have a release date of the 29th of October. So, you know, you would have expect perhaps that means that both of those consoles will be out before then. It'd be very strange if they release the game and the console's not out yet. So, you know, for instance, in Battlefield 4's case, if that's its release date and the PS4 is out then and I've got one, I will obviously get it on the PS4. So, really, to answer the question, yeah, I would definitely wait if I could, instead of getting it on both platforms. I think is the real way I would answer the question. Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. Louch, thank you very much for your great question there. Next question comes from Dylan H, and they ask, do I think game modes like Capture the Flag will be in Battlefield 4 from the start, or will they be released as extra bits of DLC? Great question. I really, really hope that DICE don't do the selfish thing, which is, or DICE and EA, I should say, do the selfish thing, which is re-release as sort of extra, you know, extra DLC and whatnot. I really, 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 really think that DICE, you know, just knowing how they are, they'll definitely release it alongside Battlefield 4, already included rather as DLC. Because, you know, we've had a lot of fun with Battlefield 3 in terms of the game modes that they've added and the maps and everything else. Now, I wouldn't expect to see the maps come across. I could definitely perhaps see them doing a best of Battlefield 3 map pack, which brings in, say, you know, the likes of, well, Metro might be a bit of a contentious one, but, you know, Bazaar and Firestorm and Caspian, who knows, into Battlefield 4. But hopefully the game modes will get off the bat. I really do hope that. Yeah, I think that pretty much answers that. So Dylan, hopefully, is I think my answer there, hopefully. And knowing DICE, I'm sure that they would be thinking much the same. Next question comes from Joe Mould, and they ask, do I think I'll go and watch the film Rush? Given that it's about, well, James Hunt and Niki Lauda, and I've mentioned that I'm quite the fan of James Hunt. Yeah, I'm definitely going to seek out Rush to the weekend it is released, and thankfully, where I work, there are quite a few of us who are big sort of Formula 1 nuts, and yeah, I can definitely see an expedition going out there. For those of you who don't know what it's about, back in the 70s, James Hunt and Niki Lauda were, if you will, the Alonso and Vettel of their day. You know, they were the rivalry to watch, and basically there is a film being made about it because, well, Niki Lauda had a terrible accident at the Nürburgring. He got very badly burned, and, well, if you watch Formula 1 today, you'll see him, obviously he's around quite a bit because he's quite involved with Mercedes. those burns and things, that's what you know, that's what he has today. It's because of that accident. And he was battling very, very intensely with James Hunt at the time. And I think that was the year that James Hunt got the world title. I forget. But anyway, involved in horrific car accident, gets very badly burned, and like 30, 40 days later, Niki Lauda is back in the car racing. You wouldn't see that perhaps today. That's just, you know, how Formula 1 drivers were back in the day. So yeah, I'll definitely be going to see it, and I'm very much so looking forward to it. So Joe, thank you very much for your question there. Next question comes from Ace8566, and they ask, have I ever been spawn trapped when playing on Operation Metro outside the ticket office? And do I think it's a flaw in the map where you know, you can get stuck in that situation? What I will say about Metro is it does follow the kind of almost classic Battlefield kind of formula that there are normally 3 ways to access something. In Metro's case, you know, there are those 3 ways. The problem is, and I think it's, you know, correctly highlighted here by Ace, is that all of those 3 ways are via the ticket office. And I'm talking about here if you spawn as, say, the Russians, and the Americans have pushed up to that point. So the kind of trick, I think, though, with the ticket office is that it is very easy to hold in a couple of the directions, but unless you're a really regimented team, to the point where you know exactly where your teammates are and you're making sure you're holding all the angles, it is possible to slip through. And often what my tactic is, if I am stuck in that kind of situation, is to, you know, try and sneakily run as quickly as I can around the enemy and run all the way to C, and then start a counter-attack from there. Not easy to do, and I definitely think that in that case, you know, Metro could have done with perhaps another way through for both the C side, if you're trapped that way as the Americans, and the A side as you're trapped being the Russians. Definitely think that Metro could improve there. But yeah, it is possible, but it's very, very difficult. And perhaps, you know, you could argue, well, the team's worked hard enough to get you stuck in that situation, they need to be rewarded for it. I can kind of completely understand that, to be honest. But you know, it's not always fun, I guess. So Ace, thank you very much for your great question there. It is kind of flawed, but there is ways around it. You just need to get organised. So thank you very much for that question there. Next question comes from Mr. Ruby 1000, and they ask, what do I think about Poker Night 2, and also in terms of real life poker, do I think it's, you know, more based on skill or more based on luck? Well, I'll be brutally honest, I haven't really heard much about Poker Night 2. I'm not really actually much of a poker player in terms of games. I'm much more, I wouldn't say interested, but much more, well, I play poker in real life because, you know, I play with friends. We don't play for real money or anything like that, you know, we just do it for a laugh. And yeah, I would agree that it's maybe 60% luck, 50% skill, because you've got to be able to figure out, for example, the odds of, you know, okay, so I've got this hand, it can be beaten by this, this and this, and the odds of those cards being there are this, this and this. So there is a bit of skill to it, but, you know, ultimately the luck of the draw of the cards are the deciding factor. And in terms of games and stuff, to play poker, I've, well, not really played any at all. I got, what was it, Late Night on the Vegas Strip. It was a PS3 game, a poker game which you could play with friends, and that was actually off the back of playing Test Drive Unlimited 2, the casino in there, because that was quite a lot of fun as well. Anyway, I digress, I'm kind of rambling. So yeah, no real thoughts on Poker Night 2, I'm afraid, but yeah, I'd say definitely skill and luck kind of play a factor, luck perhaps more than skill. So Mr. Ruby, thank you very much for your question there. Next question comes from DowLive1, and I think this is where I'm going to spend most of my time this week, and they ask a great question. With all the next generation consoles coming out, do I think that either the PS4, the Xbox 720, or the Xbox One as we now know it is, or gaming PCs have got better or worse than the others, and or why? Well, what I'll do is I'll kind of use this as a kind of nice-ish segue to talk about the Xbox One reveal, the PS4 reveal, and obviously where PCs stand today. So what I'll say first of all is if you're interested in the powerhouse, the performance, the latest and greatest, PC will be the way to go. You can easily configure and customize a PC, you can't do that with a console. That's always been the way, and I think that's the way it will continue to stay. Now the thing with the Xbox One and the PS4 is it's interesting, because basically Microsoft have gone one complete direction, with their console, and Sony have gone, by the looks of it, the complete other. It's going to be interesting to see which one ultimately fares best. What are people who are interested in games consoles really interested in? Sort of a TV entertainment system, as the Xbox One is trying to play it out, or a game system, as Sony seem to be trying to play it? as a gamer, I'm more interested in the PlayStation than the Xbox. I do think it is quite the, well, excuse my terminology, but piss take that in the hour and a bit long conference we maybe saw 10 minutes of game stuff, and all of which are trailers pre-rendered, no actual live gameplay. Admittedly, they did show off a console. Sony didn't do that in their reveal, but they did talk about games and showed off some gameplay and stuff, so that kind of, I wouldn't say satisfied me, but you know, it was something at least. It's going to be interesting to know to see if the Xbox One works. I'm personally skeptical, because if you wanted a TV system or a home entertainment system, you'd buy that. I don't think you'd buy sort of something to be an all-in-one just because it was there. You know, for instance, the television I've got, I deliberately bought one which was basically, it was a big enough screen so I could see the thing in my living room, and that was pretty much it. I wasn't particularly interested in necessarily the extra features that it had. I was more interested in the fact of it being a TV rather than trying to be this multi-purpose, all-functioning, singing, dancing system. But never mind, I digress. So yeah, I think really, to answer Dow's question, you know, what do I think is going to do well, what's regressed, etc. Gaming PCs, I think, are going to be in the same place as they've always been. They've always been sort of the technical showpiece of gaming, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. I think that really the way to answer the question is it's going to be interesting to see how consumers react, and I think that's ultimately going to be the tale in terms of who will gain and lose ground. As a gamer, I'm all behind Sony on this, and as a PlayStation fan, I was already behind Sony with this, so all in all, yeah, I think Sony are on the right track for me, anyway. So Dale, thank you very much for your great question there. Next question comes from TomJake767, and they ask, what are my thoughts on PlayStation Plus and the games which were released for free with it? Well, what I'll say is I think it's network gaming done properly, as it were. So I personally would never say pay for Xbox Live, because it's a requirement. If you want to play online, you've got to pay their subscription fee. I personally don't agree with that. I think that once you've paid your money for your system, that should be it, including network and all the rest. Well, where PlayStation Plus is interesting is that, well, as you know, if you're a PlayStation Plus member or perhaps not aware, PSN is free, but PlayStation Plus is kind of the additional service, their subscription service. And where I think it basically plays in very nicely is it does offer a lot, and I personally see it being very worthwhile. I've been a member of PlayStation Plus since day one, literally. When it was available, I signed up, and I've not looked back since. So you might say, well, how come you happily pay for PlayStation Plus and not for Xbox Live? Well, that's purely because, you know, it's an extra, it's not a requirement. And you've got to say, with the content, and Tom quite rightly calls out the games and stuff, it really has paid for itself. You know, I've got games which I wouldn't have bought otherwise, but I've got them for free thanks to PlayStation Plus. I've got discounts, I've got all this kind of stuff. I really think that Sony have hit kind of a nail on the head with PlayStation Plus, and hopefully it will make a return for the PlayStation 4 and the next generation PSN, whatever they want to call it. So yeah, I think it's a great scheme, great idea, and I really have enjoyed some of the games I've downloaded as a result. So yeah, all in all, I'm very positive about it. Tom, thank you very much for your question there. Michael Elving asks, does Mike's have a channel? He does have a channel, he does have a YouTube ID, but he doesn't upload videos, so you can certainly subscribe to him, but I don't think you'd see anything anyway. So thank you for the question there, Michael. Next question comes from Dr. BCDPS3, and they ask, in my opinion, which universe is deeper, i.e. has more lore, Star Wars or Lord of the Rings? Well, here's the awkward moment where I actually don't really follow either. I'm not really a Star Wars fan, I'm not really a Lord of the Rings fan. However, what I will say is I have heard an awful lot more in terms of story arcs, lore, in terms of Star Wars than Lord of the Rings. I mean, obviously you've got the 3 books and you've got The Hobbit on kind of the sideline, but with Star Wars you've got obviously the the first trilogy, the second trilogy, and well, whatever Disney are producing now, and you know, there's a lot of stories and lore and all sorts associated with that. But also, you know, there's lots of books, there's lots of spin-offs, there's the fan fiction, all this kind of stuff. You know, although I don't know much about the content of said fiction, for people to be able to go off and write stuff and participate as they do in that community must mean that there's a lot to work with. So I'm going to have to make the rather informed guess that I'd have to say Star Wars, and sorry that I can't really give you a proper answer on that. So Dr. PCDPS3, thank you very much for your question there. Next question comes from Patrick Van Woden, and they ask, first of all, thank you, great series, thank you very much, and they ask, which type of gun would I like to see removed from Battlefield 3, and what about vehicles? Well, first of all, I'll say that I think the vehicle should stay. It's kind of a key part of Battlefield and kind of what makes it. Definitely there have been scenarios where I think that the vehicles have been way too strong, and as I've mentioned in the past, I think it's interesting now how we're kind of seeing Battlefield 3 play out, almost in its true form. Perhaps with the patches and things which came out, it kind of hid it a bit, and as a result, we've not really seen the true nature of the game and how it plays out. The vehicles, I think it should stay. I think that in terms of them destroying infantry, that's fine. I think what really the problem has been in Battlefield 3's case with the vehicles is that kind of the mentality on destroying vehicles hasn't really been there, so they've been quite a pesky menace. So yeah, I'd leave vehicles, but in terms of handgun, Patrick mentions the G18 he would remove. I would also remove a handgun if I had the choice. What I would remove is actually the automatic handguns completely. The reason I say that is that, well, basically, the handgun to me is a sidearm. It's designed for personal defence. The thing with an automatic firearm is it's very hit and miss. And actually, I just realised I've got a Glock 18 in this game, so there you go. The thing with the Glock 18 in Battlefield 3 is its only real purpose, whatever you want to call it, is the automatic fire. If you use it on single shot, it's not a particularly good weapon. And the thing with it on fully automatic is that it's quite almost spray and pray, so it's quite a luck-based weapon to use. Whereas, say, something like the Rex or the Magnum or the Gracht or the M9, you've got to aim it, you've got to get used to it, and from that you kind of, you get your experience and you get your kills from that. Whereas to me, the automatics, they've got their own quirks, and don't get me wrong, they are not a very easy pair of weapons, the 93R, the G18 to use. But it does wind me up that, I've perhaps legitimately outplayed someone, made them waste all their ammunition, and they can just spray me down with their pistol. Well, you might say, well, why don't you do the same? Yep, that's a very fair comeback and fair comment, but personally, that's not the way I like to do things, I guess. So yeah, I definitely remove the automatic pistols, and yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. So Patrick, thank you very much for your great question there. Next question comes from Arsenal 2022, and they ask, do I consider myself a fan of MotoGP or motorcycle racing in general? I'll be honest, no. I'm really not a fan of motorcycle racing whatsoever. Don't know why, I just find cars more interesting. Even though the bike, you can argue there's a lot more going on, the rider and the bike obviously have to be in harmony in terms of, getting it balanced, going through the corners and all the rest. I just think, car racing is a bit more interesting, there's a bit more going on, I don't know. So yeah, I think I'll answer it like that. Don't really know too much about MotoGP other than Mr. Valentino Rossi and his, well, frankly, legendary career. So, Arsenal, thank you very much for your question there. Next question comes from the Gamosaurus, and they ask, what's my favourite genre of photography? And they go on to say that theirs is tilt shift. And, well, also fan of taking landscape shots and that kind of thing. I must admit, I'm a great fan of kind of doing, I wouldn't say still life, but portraits and, I quite like taking pictures of landscapes, I guess, and trying to capture, say, the motion in them. So recently I went to Belgium, I went to Bruges with a few friends, and it was snowing. And it was beautiful because I was able to take some pictures with some really long exposures, and you can see the snow, and it kind of almost looks like a blizzard, but it's not. And it was in the evening, so you had all the lights going on, it was beautiful. So still life landscape kind of stuff, I think, is how I'd have to sum that one up. The Gamosaurus, thank you very much for your question. To be honest, I'm still learning about photography very slowly. Yeah, I'm sure that as I still, learn more about my camera and various ways you can techniques you can take pictures, I'll definitely get more accustomed to other styles, and we'll see what happens from there. So thank you very much for your question, though. Next question comes from Lieutenant Flipper 2, and they ask, have I heard about NASA's recent purchase of a quantum computer? And what are my thoughts about that? Well, quantum is a really awesome area of computing, and for those of you who don't know what quantum is, basically it is, anything quantum is at the speed of light, or using light, and a quantum computer is a computer which basically works using light internally rather than, say, electricity, so it's a bit quicker, a bit more punchy. I definitely see quantum computing being the future of computers. We're going to get to a point where basically, we've crammed as many transistors and whatnot onto a processor, and we can't really gain any more performance from electricity. So I'm sure there will be a day where we will use light. It'll be even quicker than obviously electricity, and well, it should hopefully make computers faster, better, stronger. Who knows? yeah, I think it's a good investment, and obviously NASA, they do a lot of really interesting research and whatnot, obviously with space and the various sciences involved with navigating space, producing rockets, whatever else. So yeah, it's I see it as a very logical investment, and keep an eye on quantum computing. I'm sure you'll be hearing more about it in the future. So Lieutenant Flipper 2, thank you very much for your question there. Next question comes from Bajani Gian. Sorry if I've ruined your name there. And they ask, do I know Syndicate? Have I ever met or seen him? And if not, have I played any games or anything like that with him? I have actually seen Syndicate. When I was at Eurogamer last year, when I was leaving, KSI, him, well actually really all the big UK YouTubers, they were all there, sort of at the exit, just having a chat. I thought, that's pretty neat, I know you from the internet, and then just walked off because I had to go and catch a train. So yeah, I'm aware of Syndicate, I'm aware of his work, and I've seen him in the flesh, but never played any games with him, and to be honest, he's such a busy guy in terms of, obviously, he's got a massive channel and all this kind of stuff. I doubt he'd be particularly interested in hanging around with me anyway. So yeah, I'll answer it like that. Bajani, I hope I've said that right, thank you very much for your question. Next question comes from Sebastian Erb, and they ask, how do I deal with moving countries even though you're not particularly in favour of it? And I'll have to try and assume the context of that you may be emigrating and you're not particularly keen on it. Well, although I've never emigrated, I have moved an awful lot in, well, the course of my life. To be honest, you know, it's one of those things which you kind of just have to, I wouldn't say accept, but you have to be kind of open to. Change is a scary thing. Change is also a really powerful thing. Because it gives you new opportunities, new ways to look at things, new ways to contemplate who you are and how to look at stuff. I can certainly understand, you know, moving country. I mean, first of all, moving sucks because you lose everything that you've sort of got as of here and now, if you will. You know, your friends, you know, your school friends, whatever else, local area, local knowledge, all this kind of stuff. It's amazing how much you take for granted, I guess, once you've been in a place for a particular long time. You know, for instance, my flat where I live at the moment, there's a corner shop 3 minutes away. Where I lived previously, it was a 20-minute walk. And I kind of go, oh, I'll just go down the corner shop now. But whereas before that would have been a pretty serious logistical exercise, having to walk somewhere. Now I just have to walk across the street and it's there. And I know for a fact if and when I were to move from here, you know, I will miss that for sure. Moving countries is a bit different though, of course, because obviously you will be leaving country, and the obviously traditions and customs or whatever else will be, of course, quite potentially different depending on where you're going. What I'll say is try and embrace the change. It's definitely going to be difficult, and I know that from having moved just domestically in the UK. You know, it is a pain to move. But it's one of those things. It offers you opportunities sometimes, and well, until you go there, until you try and take the chance of an opportunity, you never know what you're going to get out of it. Unfortunately, guys, time has beaten us yet again, and I do have a few more questions. I'll try to get to answering those in a moment. But guys, thank you very much for your great questions. I hope you've enjoyed my answers to them. If you have any questions you'd like me to answer, being on gaming life or anything in between, please do feel free to pop it down in the comments section below. If you could leave a like, dislike, whatever you believe this video deserves, that'd be fantastic. And if you would like to see more videos from myself, you can always subscribe. So guys, I've been Chuggy. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time out on the battlefield.